Hello one and all, welcome to Seen Through Glass. This weekend, here in the UK, it's Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'm sure you've already seen some videos from the event, because it's one of the biggest and best car events in the world, and this year, it's been pretty hectic. There's been so much to see and so much going on. But yesterday, I went to visit McLaren because I needed to revisit the Artura Spider. Listeners of my podcast will know that I have driven the Artura Spider, but my video of the occasion didn't exactly go to plan. Let me take you back to yesterday where I explain what happened. I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. Best coffee at Goodwood Festival of Speed, Pirelli, but it's behind a rope of post. I mean, to be fair, we're behind a rope and post here at the incredible McLaren hospitality. This is a strong number two. This is pretty good. Anyway, a little bit of story time to kick off this year's Festival of Speed. Let me take you back in time about a month and a half ago, when McLaren very kindly invited me down to the south of France for the international press drives of the new Artura Spider. Now, I was super excited about this because last year or 18 months ago, I drove the Artura Coupe here in the UK, actually on a particularly rainy day in Wales, and I loved it. The car was amazing. I thought, oh my God, this is a whole new generation, a whole new era of McLaren, and I'm so excited. But of course, given the fact that it was a wet and miserable day in Wales, I don't feel like I really cracked on the car. I didn't completely unleash the potential of this new hybrid Macca. Do we call McLarens Maccas? Feels a bit weird, but anyway, we'll roll with it. So, of course, driving the new Spider variant in the south of France, I was like, this is going to be perfect. A part of the world that I love, roads that I adore, and clear blue skies. However, the clear blue skies became a bit of a problem. I'm British, I'm as white as, I don't know what, a ghost. And spending a lot of time in the sun's not always that great. I cooked myself. Listeners of my podcast, Behind the Glass, will know this story. I essentially gave myself heat stroke, which meant that when it came time to drive the Artura Spider fast, I became nauseous very quickly. I mean, it was the heat stroke, but also the fact that I'd rigged the camera like the other side of the car. I was on a twisty mountain road and I was going, so let me tell you about the Artura Spider. It was a disaster. And essentially the video turned out just really badly. I didn't like any of the angles. I hated what I was saying. I was trying to blame the car a lot for making me feel sick. It wasn't until I got to lunch and ate something and then felt better that I went, oh, okay, I was just heat stroked. Long story short, I was tempted to put that video in the bin, but McLaren very kindly reached out and said, look, we'd love to try and help you tell your story, so maybe come down to Goodwood, you can drive the car up the hill and try to share some of your impressions then. I thought, heck, why not? Because you know what? It wasn't the car's fault, and I actually had a really good time and really enjoyed it, so let's have another go at reviewing the Artura Spider. So, let me just down this coffee very quickly. We'll walk over to the static Artura Spider that's here in this VIP area of McLaren. Thanks, McLaren. I'll talk you through some of the changes, because actually they have changed the car quite a lot. And then, yes, I'm going to be driving it up the hill. Hopefully some of these clouds will pass. We'll get some better weather, but either way, it should be a cool experience. Now, if you don't know, Artura Spider actually represents like a whole new Artura. Whole new might be punchy, but at least an improved, maybe even a facelifted Artura. And this thing is launching, what, 3 years or so since the Coupe did? There's various COVID delays meant that there's been a bigger gap than maybe McLaren first intended. But they haven't just been sitting around developing a roof system in that time. They've been working out ways that they can improve the Artura in general, make it a bit more engaging, a bit more emotive to drive. So we've got faster gear shifts, we've got stronger engine mounts, various suspension kinematics that just supposedly make it a more engaged and involved driving experience. There is also a bump in power, now up 20 horsepower to 690, and an increased EV range of 2 miles. These are achieved via an ECU tune, meaning that existing Artura owners can actually take their cars to a dealer and unlock this extra performance. They obviously won't get the other revisions that a new Artura Coupe or Spider have, such as those new engine mounts, revised damping and braking, new exhaust, etc. But the thing is, did the Artura need various changes and upgrades? I'm not sure it did. I loved the coupe when I drove it. I definitely wasn't thinking, oh, I just wish the gears were a bit sharper, or I just wish I had a bit more rumble through the base of my seat. But because of the COVID delays the Artura suffered and the rumours of reliability issues, etc., I think it's been helpful that McLaren have had some things to say, look, this is a new car, it's an upgraded car. So I'm struggling to pick between the sort of the marketing parts and the actual engineering parts, but there is no denying that a lot of engineering has gone into this Spider. So let me point out a few of my favourite details. Firstly, up here, this little tiny lip at the top of the windshield. This is all to aid in reducing the buffeting inside the actual cabin and with aero in general. It's a little tiny lip that's quite hard to notice, but for me this really sums up like McLaren. One thing which I enjoy about McLaren's is the level of detail they go to. Of course, Ferrari, Lambo, etc., they all do the same thing, but there's something that's a bit geeky about the way McLaren does it, and that for me is a perfect demonstration. Roof itself folds down in I think in 11 seconds, maybe I've got that wrong, because it feels much quicker when you're driving the car. You can obviously put it down at speed, and I remember thinking, wow, that doesn't feel like 11 seconds. It also has that clever technology that the 720S did, the opaque roof you can change, well, had the opaqueness of the roof you can change. Come back here, these flying buttresses, now glass, that's to improve visibility from the driver's seat. If you're sort of looking through the back window, you can see through these. But for me, the kind of biggest nerdy, geeky, impressive element of the Artura, and especially the Spider, is this rear clamshell. You remember from the coupe video I talked about? It's one solid piece of clamshell, which was just stunning to look at. Here, it's had to become really intricate to manage airflow and heat. So, this right here is the chimney from the powertrain. Of course, we've got the traditional exhaust here, but this hybrid powertrain emits so much heat, they have to actually have a chimney. And on the coupe, it's coming somewhere up here somewhere, but they have to move it further back because of the folding roof. Problem is, when you move it further back, you run the risk of that hot air spilling into this area here and corroding or bubbling up the paint. So, what do? They bring air through these sort of channels here and pump it underneath the hot air coming out of that chimney to create kind of a buffer, a cold air buffer, so the hot air sits above it. But you also don't want the hot air just spilling up into nowhere. That's not great for the car's overall aero, so they use another channel, and I get confused as to which channel's doing what, to pump cold air over the hot air. So the hot air is just sitting in its own little sort of aero tube exiting the car. I mean, that's just a hint as to what's going on, but all of these funnels and areas are just diverting air all over the place. And it's insanely clever, too clever for me. Lots of you know I'm not really mechanically or engineering minded, so they spoke to me, I'm like, wow! But now I've forgotten half of it. But this whole area is really clever and really pretty. So I say, I don't want to knock what McLaren are telling me, that they've improved the Artura in general, but personally, I think don't get too caught up in it. Fundamentally, the Artura was already a great car. So how noticeable will these changes be? I found out a bit in the south of France. Maybe I'll find out again on my run up the hill. So fingers crossed some of these clouds will burn up. We can go and jump into the Artura Spider for a drive up the Goodwood hill climb. I can't make a video about a hybrid McLaren and not show you this, the new LEGO Technic McLaren P1, the original hybrid McLaren. I had the honour of unveiling this at an event at the McLaren Technology Centre a few days ago. It was an amazing evening. We pulled the covers off a real-life McLaren P1 and then, yes, this new LEGO Technic Ultimate model. Now, if you've not built a LEGO Technic model before, it's not for the faint-hearted. And reminder, it's not really for kids. There's nearly 4,000 pieces as part of this LEGO set. And they say that a novice will probably take 25 to 30 hours to put this thing together. But that's because it's insanely detailed. The LEGO Group engineers actually spoke to McLaren automotive engineers when they were putting this thing together to figure out how certain elements worked. I mean, it can go into race mode, it has the iconic butterfly doors, the wheels move as you turn the steering wheel, it has a functioning gearbox, and just look at the thing, it's absolutely amazing. So, whilst it's going to take me some time to actually finish it, I do find the build processes quite rewarding because I don't feel like I actually physically build or put anything together these days. So just slowly taking my time and then going, oh, I've got a door, or hey, there's a rear wing, and then finally ending up with the full model will be, well, that achievement I'm seeking in my life right now. So huge thanks to the LEGO Group for involving me and for sending me this amazing thing. And at some point, keep an eye on my Instagram or here on YouTube, I will post that finished LEGO Technic McLaren P1. For now, let's get back to the other, newer hybrid McLaren.
Favourite car.
Our favourite car. Oh, interesting. Why?
Because I like McLarens.
Well, there we go.
I agree.
That's
And
it.
this is the nicest.
Oh,
I like them all, but
that's interesting. Okay.
no, I'm a McLaren.
I appreciate the insight.
I would like one, yes. Thank you.
Well, there we go. It wins the Marshall vote. Now that I find interesting because we're sitting right behind the 750S, which is this car's big brother. And I think the 750 holds that big brother weight. I think it's like the 911 compared to the Cayman. I do see the Artura as being the baby car. Now that's good in terms of size because it feels quite small and nimble. Having spent 7 days with the 750S, it's not a small car. This suddenly shrinks around you. But apparently, yeah, well, at least that Marshall prefers this thing visually. Anyway, we cruise down here to the start line in electric mode, which is obviously one of the big plus points of this car, the fact that it's got this dual personality. You can use the hybrid powertrain to drive in pure electric setting. But we've now turned the engine on. Second thing to mention is this car is outrageously fast. We are like 50 horsepower down on the 750S. It doesn't necessarily feel like it. I'm actually a little bit intimidated by the run we're about to do. Not to make Gus now nervous, but it's just because that was my one takeaway. Apart from the fact that I nearly needed to vomit every time I drove this car in the south of France, it just was so fast. Right, here we go, people. Still slippery. Yeah, there it goes. When it finds grip, this thing, it just takes off. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the noise. Whilst you can hear this engine singing, I was actually a tiny bit disappointed when I opened this car up for the first time because they made a big deal about the fact that they had really, re-engineered this exhaust to make it more characterful, to make the drive a bit more engaging. But I don't think it sounds massively different or better than the Artura Coupe I drove a year or so ago. And having now driven the 750S, I just think it could be even more symphonous. But that is where you want to be in this car, busting through third and fourth gear. If you think I'm being a bit ginger, I am. This is my first time up the hill climb in a few years. And I'm trying to think about what to say as well as survive, but there we go. And this thing just, the ride is still fantastic. And I am not nauseous, people. We have survived without nausea. It feels like we're about to take off to the moon and across the finish line. There we go. Let's get down here and stop. Try not to run over some other racing drivers and people. All the way over in the hedge he wants me to go. Thank you. And stop. Okay, so neutral and handbrake on. Hold on, is it pull or push? It's pull. There we go, and off. This thing, it is superb in every way you expect a McLaren or an Artura to be. And on a drive like that, it's like, woohoo! By the way, I've got like noise cancelling earpieces in. These help. I can't hear anything. I can't even hear my own voice. It's very surreal. But I'm going to keep talking to you because we're doing a one take here. And it's so engaging and it just takes off, and the front end is fantastic and the steering feel is delightful and it just gives you everything you want all the time. There is just a but, and that but is, well, McLaren aren't going to like this. Gus, just listen to some music or something like that. You can pick up used Artura Coupes, the original cars, on the used market for like 150 grand. They're like ex-demos, ex-press cars, but I genuinely think that's the car to have because this thing is not cheap. And yes, of course, the fact you can put the roof down is spectacular, but I don't know, maybe I need to drive the cars back to back. Don't get me wrong, I adore this thing, but having lived with a 750S for a week, having had such a good time in that coupe, I don't know, I'm just like, sure, but I'm getting some evil stuff. Gus keeps, stop talking, now I kill. Anyway, we'll sit up here for a moment and then we're going to head back down the hill. Maybe we'll cruise down in electric mode, who knows? Maybe that will sell me on it a bit more. The fact that it's sunny and the roof is down and I'm at the top of the Goodwood hill climb is selling me on the car kind of a bit. I mean, it is really good. They're just, unfortunately, there remains a but. And it's not that I'm nauseous this time, it's that I just My memory of the coupe was better, and the 750 steals the show a little bit. I know it comes across like I'm being a bit disparaging about this car, but I'm not trying to be, because I actually really like it. If I drove this Spider back to back with an original Artura Coupe, I'm sure I would notice the changes. But unless you're driving them back to back, I just don't think all the revisions are as obvious as they read on paper. Now, I fully realise that Spider variants of any McLarens tend to be the ones to have, because they pretty much keep all the rigidity of the coupes thanks to their carbon tubs. But whilst this Artura Spider is the lightest in its class, it is 60 kilograms heavier than the coupe, which again makes the original used Arturas look so attractive. I also find it kind of hard to work out what the Artura's rivals are. I'm sure originally it would have been things like the Maserati MC20 or the outgoing Lamborghini Huracan, but I think it punches well above those, so you have to start looking at things like the Ferrari 296 and even against its big brother the 750S, even though they are 100 grand more. So you could argue, well, it's a bit of a bargain, but I would choose both the 296 and the 750 over an Artura, so we're back in no man's land. Look, if you live in a country where you can get the roof down a lot, go for the new Spider. Why not? You're getting the best of all worlds. All the new revisions, and arguably the better lifestyle car. Driving this thing around Monaco in electric mode with the roof down was actually pretty wild. But if you're considering a new Artura Coupe, my honest opinion is save the money. Buy a used car, get the power bump at your local dealer, and you'll be driving around in something that can compete with cars double the price. Well, I have to say a big thanks to McLaren for giving me a second chance with the car. It's not every manufacturer that's willing to do that, so thumbs up to them. A little bit of admin to tell you about. There'll be no video uploaded next weekend. I'm kickstarting a pretty big American adventure. More info on that to come on the podcast and future posts. But yeah, I got to skip a week. And then the first upload from that trip will come the first weekend in August, if that makes sense. So in the meantime, there'll be plenty of YouTube shorts. I'll be on Instagram, the podcast will be going out, etc. But yeah, more to come on that soon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and stay subscribed, because yes, not next weekend, but the weekend after, lots of big content on the way.